Hello. From the show that launched the political career of the Ukrainian president to a multi-generational saga about a Korean family living under Japanese occupation. Welcome to our monthly show about what's hot on TV. And our critic, Alison Sargent, is here. Hello, Alison.
Hi, Eve.
Now, you're starting with Servant of the People, the political satire created by Volodymyr Zelensky. It's seen a boom in international popularity in the wake of the Russian invasion.
This show, Eve, is really the reason that he ended up in office. It stars Zelensky as a high school history teacher who, much to his own surprise, gets elected president after a student films him ranting about government corruption, and it goes viral. Now, for the real-life Zelensky, this series really ended up being sort of the equivalent of that viral rant because it saw him gain huge popularity when it came out back in 2015. When he announced he was running for president a couple years later, he really embraced that blurred boundary between his real and fictional self. He named his political party Servant of the People after the show. And then the final season was actually airing during the lead up to Ukraine's 2019 election that Zelensky won with 73% of the vote.
And since Russia invaded Ukraine and Zelensky emerged as this powerful wartime leader, there's been an explosion of interest in the show.
Yeah, I spoke to the managing partner at the show's international distributor, Echo Rights. Nicholas Soderlund said that they've signed dozens of new contracts, including a renewed contract with Netflix. Now, Soderlund has actually met Zelensky, and I asked him about parallels between the character Zelensky plays on the show and the man that he is in real life. Let's take a listen to him and also see a clip from Servant of the People.
Мы снова выберем пи***аса. Один бы раз такого, как я, запустили бы туда. Кортежи, на льготы, ваши, на дачи, на всех вас.
He seems to be very sincere. You can really feel that it comes from his heart, what he's saying to the people. That is really, it's really true and is really grounded. He's not a politician in that sense. And also, he also adds a lot of humor into his speeches. He really wanted to change the country, to modernize it, to break the monopoly of the oligarchs, to break the old structures of corruption and all that. And that was the reason why he made the TV series, and also the reason why he ran for president.
Василий Петрович Голобородько. Доброе утро, господин президент.
And Alison, what's it like watching this series, given what's happening in Ukraine?
Well, as you can imagine, Eve, it's pretty surreal. The opening sequence is Zelensky on a bike riding through the streets of Kyiv. The sun is out. He's waving and smiling at passersby. It's really tragic when you mentally juxtapose it, as you do, with the images that we've been seeing in recent weeks of Kyiv bracing for battle. Once you get past that, though, it is really just a warm, funny comedy. Zelensky's character is sort of like a Leslie Knope from Parks and Recreation or a Ted Lasso type. He's very earnest and unflinchingly true to himself. There's also a really clear value system that comes across in the show. At one point, Zelensky's character even says it himself: work, integrity, justice. I would also add humor and democracy. This show really shows you what a democratic Ukraine could look like, and I think watching it now really helps you understand what it is that Ukrainians are fighting for.
And the situation in Ukraine also took centre stage at France's series Mania television festival, which wrapped up last week in Lille.
Yeah, Ukrainian producer Yulia Sinkovich was invited to preside over the jury. Now, she was able to make it to Lille in northern France for the festival. She had been in western Ukraine after fleeing the capital, Kyiv. During the opening ceremony, she said that it was important to her that Ukraine be recognized on what she called the cultural battlefield.
Well, we actually spoke to her ahead of the festival here on Encore. She explained why she felt Russian cultural boycotts were necessary.
Russian propaganda has been there, present everywhere in Europe and also in the world for a decade. And even now they continue to spread fake information about what's happening here. I think that now this is not the right time to showcase films, content, TV series which were supported by the government of Russia.
And Julia Sinkovich's jury picked a French show for its top honour. The grand prize went to The World of Tomorrow, or Le Monde de Demain.
This is a series about the birth of French hip-hop in the 1980s. It tells the story of rappers Joey Starr and Cool Shen, and also the DJ, D Nasty. Now, the show is described as joyful, rebellious, and explosive. It's going to be on Arte in the fall before coming to Netflix. Now, 2 French shows also opened and closed the festival. The opening was Drôle, or Standing Up, about stand-up comedians trying to make it in Paris. It's currently streaming on Netflix. I have to say I binged it over the weekend, and I absolutely loved it, which is not surprising considering that it was created by Fanny Herrero, who's the same woman who was behind 10% or Call My Agent. Let's take a look.
Je fais du stand-up. Du coup, t'es drôle, quoi. J'essaye déjà.
Après, je me dis que j'aimerais essayer autre chose.
Tu veux faire du stand-up?
Je sais plus qui tu es. Et du coup, je voulais te parler d'un nouveau sujet, et je voulais t'en parler. Enfin, c'est un nouveau sketch que j'ai testé ce soir. On n'en parle pas du plaisir prostatique. Moi, je comprends pas pourquoi on a autant attendu. Hein. On est quand même parti en Thaïlande avant d'aller dans son cul.
Now, that was Drôle. Closing out the festival, though, there was another French show, Ouskin, about French-Algerian student Malik Ouskin, who was killed by police during a protest in 1986. That show looks set to be quite powerful, and it comes out later this year on Disney+.
My goodness, I've got so much to catch up on. Next, you're going to tell us about one of the year's most anticipated series that has just come out. It's an adaptation of the epic historical fiction novel Pachinko by Korean-American writer Min Jin Lee.
I loved this book, Eve, and I also loved the show. It is a sweeping family saga that explores the legacy of the Japanese occupation of Korea, a period of history that doesn't get talked about quite a lot. The story spans several generations, but centers around the life of Sunja, who's really the family backbone. A series of events leads her to move as a young woman from her small seaside village in Korea to Osaka, Japan, making her and the generations after her part of a population known as Zainichi, Koreans living in Japan. Now, the adaptation from Apple TV Plus has some major star power. Oscar winner Yoon Ye-jung plays Sunja as an older woman. The cast also includes Lee Min-ho and Korean-American actor Jin Ha, who, fun fact, had to memorize his Japanese lines with a voice coach for the role. I was particularly moved, though, by the performance of newcomer Min Ha Kim, who plays Sunja in her younger years.
Okay, well, let's take a look at Pachinko and hear from some of the artists involved.
I wanted to really establish, before we feel the displacement of Sunja, I wanted to have a real deep sense of place in her life. And even though it was a struggle, she loved, and she would never go back to that place.
다 기억하고 싶어, 동서. 얼굴들도 상상해본 적 한 번도 없어? 다른 선택을 했다면 어떻게 살았을지.
엄마, 왜 그래요?
The story is not about dwelling in the pain and the hurt and the trauma of it. It's about digging back in and investigating it in order to more fully tell the story of the endurance and the resilience and the healing that can be found with time and with effort, I think, within a family.
Now, the cast and crew all had a really personal connection to the story. Some of their own families were Zainichi. Others just connected to it as a universal immigration story, whether their parents came from South Korea or Nazi Germany. They really made Pachinko with the hope that it's going to spark the kind of intergenerational discussions that many families tend to avoid.
And the question that begs to be asked, how does it live up to the book?
Well, Eve, the biggest difference is that the book is linear, while the show weaves back and forth in time between the early 1900s and the 1980s. I do think it makes for some visually and thematically interesting moments. The series also zooms out and adds scenes that weren't in the book to give history a more prominent place. This is just the first of what's hopefully going to be 4 seasons, and I am very excited, I have to say, for the next installment.
Okay, and this week's last show is also also a literary adaptation. Season 2 of Regency-era romance series Bridgerton has just been released on Netflix.
Yes, it is produced by Shonda Rhimes, and season 1 became a cultural phenomenon when it came out for a variety of reasons. First, it is a pseudo-period piece with a heavy dose of modern pop culture, basically Pride and Prejudice meets Gossip Girl. Second, it's one of the rare period pieces with racially diverse casting. And then finally, it had very steamy sex scenes, and it came out in the middle of the pandemic when many people were feeling starved for human contact. Now, season 1 focused on Daphne Bridgerton and her courtship with the Duke. This time, Daphne's older brother, Anthony, takes center stage. He shares a sensually combative relationship with newcomer Kate Sharma. She's played by Simone Ashley, who you might recognize from Sex Education. The situation, though, turns into an unfortunate love triangle with her little sister, Edwina, played by Charita Chandran. It's not as steamy as season 1, Eve. It's also pretty predictable, but I found that I was still happy to have it back in all of its anachronistic, pastel-colored glory.
Okay, well, I'm going to start with that tonight, I think. Alison, thank you so much. Now we're going to end with an escape to the world of Bridgerton. Remember our website. We're also on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Thanks for watching. There's more news coming up on France 24 after this.
What happens when duty is in conflict with the heart's true desire? Why, then there is the potential for a considerable scandal indeed.
My honor is hanging by a thread that grows more precarious with every moment in your presence.
I want my sister to be happy. Can you make her happy?
True love is worth it.